Chrysler's turning 100. 100 years of people-first innovations, from inventing the first plug-in hybrid minivan with stow-and-go seating to reimagining what's next with the Halcyon concept. Chrysler has always put people at the center. Here's to the last century of innovation and the next century to come.
Welcome to Daily Drive for Thursday, June 5th, 2025. I'm Jamie Butters, Executive Editor of Automotive News in Detroit.
And I'm Kellen Walker in Las Vegas. Today on the show, President Trump's tariffs pummel Canada's auto exports. U.S. suppliers call for immediate action on China rare earth restrictions. An EV startup, Bollinger, exits bankruptcy. Plus, Chrysler is celebrating its centennial. CEO Christine Feuell joins us for an exclusive interview about the milestone and her expectations for the brand in the coming years.
We've had very productive conversations and meetings regarding what Chrysler really needs, not just to be viable in the future, but how do we really transform the brand for growth.
Let's run through all the news you need to know to keep up in the auto industry.
Canada posted its largest merchandise trade deficit on record in April. That's according to Statistics Canada, the country's central statistical office. The deficit ballooned to $7.1 billion as exports fell sharply in the face of U.S. tariffs. The agency says the results for April followed a deficit of $2.3 billion in March. Overall exports fell nearly 11% in April to $60.4 billion. That's their lowest level since June 2023. Exports of motor vehicles and parts were hit hardest, falling about 17.5%.
A group representing auto suppliers in the U.S. are calling for immediate action to address China's restricted exports of rare earth minerals and magnets. MEMA warned the issue could quickly disrupt auto parts production. China controls over 90% of global processing capacity for rare earth minerals used in everything from automobiles and fighter jets to home appliances. In a statement to Reuters, MEMA said parts companies are facing, quote, serious real-time risk to their supply chains. The White House did not immediately comment. Several European parts makers have shut down plants and production lines in the wake of the new rare minerals restrictions.
Electric truck startup Bollinger Motors has exited U.S. bankruptcy court. That's after the company got more financial aid from parent Mullen Automotive, whose chief has ambitious plans for a rebound set here in Michigan. California-based Mullen acquired an additional 21% of Bollinger, bringing its ownership stake in the suburban Detroit company to 95%. Mullen Automotive CEO David Michery said the company paid $11 million to Robert Bollinger, who in March had sued the company that he founded, claiming it was broke and seeking to recover his loan.
And an update on the cargo ship carrying vehicles, including EVs, that crew had to abandon in the Pacific after catching fire. People familiar with the matter tell Bloomberg News that the ship was carrying cars from several Chinese automakers. The Morning Midas was shipping more than 3,000 vehicles to Mexico from Chinese manufacturers, including Chery and Great Wall. The People say it's not clear at this stage which brand's electric vehicle caught fire. And those are today's headlines. So, Jamie, Canada's auto exports are taking a huge hit from President Trump's tariffs. What can the Canadian industry do to essentially survive?
Well, with the U.S., they need a new and better trade relationship. They need to try to get these auto tariffs dialed down and a new USMCA negotiated. But in the meantime, I think, they're going to be looking for other export markets. They've got, factories there from the Detroit 3 automakers. The Toyota and Honda have big facilities there. And if they can find some alternative destinations for those vehicles, that can help keep those plants utilized. But it really shows the actions, gives us a real-time measure on the impact of the tariffs.
Gotcha. Coming up, Chrysler CEO Christine Feuell joins the show to talk about the brand's future as it celebrates its 100th birthday. That's next on Daily Drive.
The 2025 Automotive Golf Classic is coming up soon, raising funds for the Boys and Girls Clubs of Southeastern Michigan. Players will tee off Monday, June 16th at St. John's Resort in Plymouth, Michigan.
Attendees will get exclusive access to the third annual Automotive News Supplier Panel discussion just prior to tee time at 9 a.m. This year's remarks will feature Paul Thomas, President of Bosch North America, along with Colin Shaw, President of MEMA Original Equipment Suppliers. The executive guests will discuss challenges for suppliers stemming from the current trade landscape, new U.S. tariffs, and other critical issues facing the supply chain.
For more information about this event, reach out to Tiffany Sula at the Boys and Girls Clubs at tsula@bgcsm.org or to Philip Nussel, AGC Executive Chairman at pnussel@crane.com.
Chrysler's turning 100. That's a whole century of shaping the way America drives and leading with innovation. Did you know Chrysler introduced the first ignition key? What about the first automatic transmission, the first Hemi V8 engine, the first windshield wipers, and the first ever minivan? And they never stopped innovating, even today. The Chrysler Pacifica is the first and only plug-in hybrid minivan, the first with the convenience of stow-and-go seating, and it's packed with the most high-tech safety features in its segment. But for Chrysler, it's about more than just innovating. It's about innovating for people, for memories, road trips with your friends, school drop-offs in the rain, family reunions, weekend soccer tournaments, first dates, first drives, and everything in between. Chrysler's been there for all of it, leading the way with game-changing ideas. And they've introduced the Halcyon concept, driving the brand's future innovation, focusing on building a sleek, smart, sustainable vehicle design for the next generation of driver. So here's to Chrysler, 100 years of innovation, memories, and everything in between.
Welcome back to Daily Drive. I'm Jamie Butters with Kellen Walker. Chrysler is 100 years old. Walter Chrysler was a former Buick president who started his career in the railroad industry. He built a reputation as a purveyor of affordable but luxurious vehicles. The first vehicle bearing his name, the 1924 Chrysler 6, was initially devised as part of Maxwell Motor, a company he controlled until absorbing it into his eponymous new manufacturer the following year. On Wednesday, Chrysler celebrated its centennial at the Detroit Yacht Club. It pulled some of its most iconic nameplates out of the vault, allowing attendees to ride them around the city's iconic Belle Isle Park, which sits in the middle of the Detroit River. After the event, I spoke with Chrysler brand CEO Christine Feuell, who also oversees Alfa Romeo in North America. We talked about the milestone and the brand's future as its parent company, Stellantis, looks to jumpstart its business under new leadership. Christine Feuell, welcome to Daily Drive.
Thanks, Jamie. It's great to be here.
Well, this is exciting. We're at the Detroit Yacht Club, but we're celebrating Chrysler's birthday. Happy birthday to Chrysler.
Thank you very much. 100 years of Chrysler, and we're calling it the Century of Innovation.
That's great. You know, it's of course, it's Automotive News Centennial year this year as well.
Yes, happy birthday to you, too.
Thank you. That's been fun. Ours is a little later in the year, but the same year. So we're celebrating all year.
Yes.
And we've been asking people some sort of big picture questions because it is this historic, milestone year. And so I have to ask you about Walter P. Chrysler. What did he do for the industry? What did he bring to the industry?
Well, when Walter P. Chrysler set up the Chrysler Corporation, he cast a very clear vision around delivering vehicles that are innovative, have enormous engineering excellence and high quality and beautiful designs all at an affordable price, because he felt very strongly that he needed to make cars that the mainstream consumer could afford.
Mm-hmm. That was such an important pivot in the history of the industry, right? Because it started out as kind of a luxury that only the wealthiest people could afford. And then through, I think, Mr. Chrysler and Mr. Ford, it became much more affordable and truly a mainstream product.
100%. And one of the things I think that differentiated Chrysler in that time frame is he really felt that the mainstream consumer deserved to have a really beautifully designed car. And so today, when we had our media event, we had 20 vehicles that we had produced over the last 100 years. And you really can see the design excellence that really transpired over the last century. Just these beautifully designed cars that are iconic parts of our pop culture. When you think about the Chrysler 6, which we revealed at the New York Auto Show earlier this year, the 55 Chrysler 300, the Turbine, the New Yorker, the LeBaron. I mean, it was jaw-dropping, and it really warmed my heart to see all of the journalists taking rides around Belle Isle and getting out of the cars with these big smiles on their faces, because it's really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to drive vehicles that are approaching 100 years old.
Yeah, that's
and
amazing.
Still drive.
And still drive, yeah. We were talking about the concept car, the original, the 1924, and that you got to ride in it.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and the seats are incredibly comfortable. I was not expecting that at all.
Corinthian leather?
Corinthian
Maybe it
leather?
predated that.
No, that was in the Cordova.
Right. But no, that's really amazing, and I'm sure we'll see lots of beautiful photos and images online from that.
Yeah, we will.
So, beyond Walter Chrysler, who had such a huge impact on the industry, as you think back over this last 100 years or so, are there other leaders who've really stood out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly as a woman in the auto industry, I've always really respected and looked up to Mary Barra, who's the first female CEO in our industry, and have a huge amount of respect for the way that she has turned around GM and set a very clear vision for the company around the 000 initiatives, and has really stayed true to delivering a full portfolio of products that span the various affordability levels that consumers are looking for. But probably the most inspiring person to me, besides Walter P. Chrysler, is Lee Iacocca. Having started my professional life at Ford and then coming to Stellantis.
Sort of like he did.
Yeah. And the way he fought to develop and launch that Mustang, which was a game changer in the industry, a small, sporty, affordable car that really took off, was one of the best-selling vehicles in America, and really started that trend of a two-car household. And then what he did for Chrysler when he came over and really turned the company around with the K cars and really created the minivan segment. It just truly is inspiring.
Yeah, we owned both of those in our household when I was younger. So yeah, no, really important vehicles and an incredible turnaround. And of course, Mary Barra as well came to GM right as the ignition switch thing was blowing up,
and had to navigate through a lot of turmoil and conflict when she was first starting in the role.
Yeah,
as Lee Iacocca did as well.
So really interesting. So how's business? It's we're just June has just started. Industry wide, we certainly saw a bit of a slowdown in May after March and April were pretty hot.
Yeah, a little slower, a little bumpy. Yeah. But Chrysler had a really good May. We beat our sales target on total sales, but May is always a really pivotal month for minivans because it kicks off the spring and summer selling season. So Pacifica did really strong in the month of May. We have seen over the last 2 months the strongest dealer order trend that we've seen in 2 years.
Wow.
And the segment itself in the month of May grew 30% month over month. So there's a lot of upside that we see, at least in the Chrysler brand, because it's minivan selling season, but we're also highly integrated with our dealers and our business centers all summer long, kicking off grassroots celebrations of our 100-year anniversary. So we have a lot of sales events and marketing programs that we're doing all summer long.
So it's not just a Mother's Day and Father's Day.
No, it's summer road trip season.
There you go.
You need a minivan to get you there.
That's a great vehicle for a road trip. Of course, all the Pacificas are made across the river in Windsor, so there's tariff complications. How do you address pricing and volume to try to keep the brand, keep your share, but also stay profitable?
Right, that's a good question. For now, we're holding our pricing and really are focusing on the value that we're giving to the customer. So right now, the complexities around the tariff situation apply tariffs to the vehicle value net of U.S. compliant content. So we're in a good position there. We have a very high percentage of U.S. content in the Pacifica, even though it's manufactured in Canada.
So you also have a new CEO coming in. Antonio Filosa has been named. He officially takes over June 23rd, but I get the sense he's working pretty hard on the job already.
Yeah, he is.
It seems like there's a lot of enthusiasm about this internal choice.
We are so thrilled to have Antonio appointed as our new CEO. He's been a real friend to me since I joined the company in 2021. At that time, he was running South America. And the last few years that he's been in North America, first leading the Jeep brand and then as a COO, he's really transformed, I think, the culture of the organization. He's a very humble person, and he really prioritizes connecting with people. And so our employee engagement is at all-time highs. The dealers just love him. And because he's got a supply chain, a manufacturing background, he's really worked hard to work on improving our relationships with suppliers. And all of that is just really, really positive for us.
Yeah, that was impressive to me that he had the supply chain, the manufacturing, and sales all in his background. And not a lot of auto execs had that.
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So one of the things he's got to grapple with, or at least the view from outside, we're not in the meetings, but there's a sense, Stellantis being, Fiat, Chrysler automobiles with PSA, 14 brands, 15 including Leap Motor, and concerned that maybe it's too many brands. For you as the Chrysler chief, what's your case for Chrysler having a second century?
Yeah, I am not at all concerned about Chrysler's viability going forward. Antonio has been an incredible supporter for the Chrysler brand from his time leading the South America team. And we've had very productive conversations and meetings regarding what Chrysler really needs, not just to be viable in the future, but how do we really transform the brand for growth and disrupt the minivan segment that we created 42 years ago and really set this brand up to revitalize itself by investing in new growth segments, bigger segments than what we're playing in now with the midsize and larger crossover space. And I am still a big supporter and believer in the car segment. The dealers keep telling me every day how much they want to see another 300 come back. And I think we can do a lot with that, particularly leveraging the inspiration of the Halcyon concept.
Yeah, a gorgeous car. Do you see, what are your thoughts on powertrain at this point? Obviously, the Pacifica is a plug-in hybrid.
But it has
we've talked about electric.
V6. Yeah. So I know when I joined the company and we crafted the revitalization strategy for Chrysler, the original vision was to have Chrysler go 100% battery electric. We've since pivoted based on customer and market trends and demand requirements. So we're moving forward with a true multi-energy strategy for the portfolio. We have a freshened Pacifica coming next year that has an all-new front end that's inspired by the Halcyon concept, an updated and upgraded interior and infotainment system, and a new plug-in hybrid technology that's shared with the Jeep platforms as well. And then in 27, we will be launching our first new product in more than 10 years, and that will be the D-size crossover that's based on Stella Large. Biggest segment in the industry. And so I'm really excited to have a vehicle that's highly differentiated from any other product in our showroom for sure, but to have a Chrysler product that will launch with a hybrid powertrain first and then in-cycle ICE and potential for BEV longer term also.
All right. More to come in another century of Chrysler.
That's right.
Great. Christine Feuell, CEO of Chrysler, and of course, Alfa Romeo in North America. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Jamie.
That's Daily Drive for today. I'm Jamie Butters.
And I'm Kellen Walker. Thanks to Automotive News executive producer Jake Neer for his help on today's podcast. We had reporting from Kurt Nagel of our sibling publication, Crane's Detroit Business. You can get the latest news on manufacturing, tariffs, and everything happening in the auto industry at autonews.com.
Come back tomorrow for a conversation with TransUnion's Satyan Merchant about how the latest tariff policy shifts are affecting auto retail finance.
One of the levers that we know in this industry that manufacturers and dealers use to mitigate increasing costs is that lever of incentives. It's possible those incentives might get pulled back as a means to pass on increased costs to consumers.
We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you think of the show and the topics we covered today. Send us an email at dailydrive@autonews.com or leave us a voicemail at 313-444-2774. And if you enjoy the podcast, remember to like, leave a review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.